The hotel key card wouldn't work, and Natasha Palmer stood in the hallway of her own home at 2 in the afternoon, confused about why the electronic lock on her bedroom door was flashing red. She'd cut her Chicago business conference short because the main speaker had canceled, catching a flight home 12 hours earlier than planned. Her husband Derek wasn't expecting her until tomorrow morning. She tried the card again. Still red. That's when she heard it, a woman's laugh coming from inside her bedroom. Not just any laugh. She knew that laugh. She'd heard it 1,000 times over 23 years of friendship. It was Simone's laugh. Natasha's hand froze on the door handle. Her mind tried to make sense of it. Maybe Simone was here to surprise her for their girls' night. Maybe Derek had let her in to wait. But the lock was changed. And why would Simone be in her bedroom? She used her emergency key, the old-fashioned metal one she kept on her main keychain. The lock clicked. She pushed the door open slowly. The scene before her would be burned into her memory forever. Derek, her husband of 8 years, was in their bed with Simone, her best friend since 7th grade. They weren't just lying together. They were tangled up in sheets that Natasha had washed and put on the bed herself 3 days ago. Derek's hand was in Simone's hair. Simone was wearing one of Natasha's silk robes. They didn't notice her at first. They were too busy kissing, laughing, touching each other like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Like they were comfortable. Like this was normal. Derek. Natasha's voice came out as a whisper. They froze. Derek's eyes went wide. Simone's face drained of color. Tasha. You're not supposed to, Derek started, then stopped, realizing how that sounded. I'm not supposed to be in my own house? Natasha's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. In my own bedroom? Simone pulled the sheet up to cover herself, and that small gesture, using Natasha's sheets to cover her body after sleeping with Natasha's husband, made something crack inside Natasha's chest. How long? Natasha asked. Tasha, listen. Derek climbed out of bed, reaching for his pants. How long? Natasha's voice rose. Simone looked at Derek and something passed between them. A look that spoke of shared secrets, of inside jokes, of a whole relationship that Natasha had never known about. 2 years, Simone said quietly. The number hit Natasha like a physical blow. 2 years. That meant they'd been together since right after Simone's wedding. Natasha had been the maid of honor at that wedding. She'd helped Simone pick out her dress, plan her honeymoon, choose the flowers. And the whole time, Simone had already been sleeping with Derek. Get out, Natasha said. Tasha, we need to talk about this. Derek reached for her. Don't touch me. Natasha stepped back. Both of you get out of my house. Now. This is my house too, Derek said, and there was something in his voice, a hint of challenge, that made Natasha look at him more carefully. Then I'll leave, Natasha said. She turned and walked out of the bedroom, down the stairs, out the front door. She got in her car and drove, not knowing where she was going, just knowing she needed to be away from that house, away from that bed, away from the two people who had just destroyed her entire world. She ended up at a coffee shop 3 miles away, sitting in her car in the parking lot. Her phone started ringing. Derek. She declined the call. It rang again. Simone. She declined that too. Text messages started flooding in. Derek, we need to talk about this like adults. Simone, please Tasha, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. Derek, you can't just run away. We have to figure this out. Natasha turned her phone off. She sat in silence, her mind replaying the last 2 years. Every late business meeting Derek had. Every girls' trip Simone had suggested. Every time Simone had come over when Derek was home and Natasha was at work. Every excuse, every lie, every moment that had been stolen from her while she trusted them both completely. She thought about Simone's husband, Andre. Did he know? Was he part of this somehow? Or was he another victim like her? After an hour, Natasha turned her phone back on and called her assistant, Rebecca. Hey boss, I thought you weren't back until tomorrow? Rebecca answered cheerfully. Change of plans. I need you to do something for me, and I need you to not ask questions. Rebecca's voice became serious. What do you need? I need the name of the best divorce attorney in the city. And I need an appointment today if possible. There was a pause. Give me 20 minutes. Natasha sat in that parking lot and made a decision. She wasn't going to cry. She wasn't going to beg. She wasn't going to try to fix this or figure out what she'd done wrong. Derek and Simone had made their choices. Now she would make hers. 23 years of friendship, gone. 8 years of marriage, over. But Natasha was a successful business owner who'd built a marketing firm from nothing. She'd survived worse than cheating. She'd survived her parents' deaths, business setbacks, and a near bankruptcy in her company's early days. She would survive this too. But more than that, she would make sure they faced consequences for what they'd done. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca with a name and address. Patricia Reeves, best divorce attorney in the state. She can see you at 4 p.m. today. I told her assistant it was urgent. Natasha checked the time. 2:47 p.m. She had an hour to pull herself together, walk into that office and start taking her life back. She looked at herself in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were red but dry. Her jaw was set. She looked like someone who just had their heart broken. But she also looked like someone who was ready to fight. 2 years, she said to her reflection. They stole 2 years from me. Now they're going to pay for every single day. She started her car and drove toward the attorney's office, leaving behind the coffee shop, the parking lot, and the woman she'd been an hour ago, the woman who'd trusted blindly and loved without question. That woman was gone. In her place was someone harder, smarter, and ready for war. Patricia Reeves was a sharp-looking woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and eyes that seemed to see right through Natasha. Her office was all dark wood and leather chairs, the kind of place that said success and power. Tell me everything, Patricia said, pulling out a legal pad. Natasha told her about coming home early, about finding them in bed, about the 2 years of lies. She spoke steadily, keeping her emotions under control. Do you have any evidence beyond what you saw today? Patricia asked. Just what I witnessed. But I want to get more. Patricia leaned forward. Here's what you need to understand, Mrs. Palmer. In this state, we have no-fault divorce, which means the affair itself won't get you much in court. What matters is assets, finances, and any illegal activity. Does your husband have access to your business accounts? Natasha felt her stomach drop. Yes. He's on my company credit cards. He said it was easier for business expenses when he helped with client dinners. Has he been helping with your business? He's been consulting. He used to work in marketing before we got married. He said he wanted to be more involved. Natasha's mind was racing. Oh no. He has login access to some of our client databases. For scheduling purposes. Patricia's expression became very serious. Mrs. Palmer, I'm going to recommend you do something immediately. Go home, change all your passwords, check your accounts. I want you to look at every transaction from the past 6 months. Can you do that tonight? What are you thinking? I'm thinking that people who lie about affairs often lie about other things. And if your friend Simone knows your business, she might know things worth stealing. Trade secrets, client lists, proprietary information. Natasha's marketing firm, Palmer Solutions, had grown from a small startup to a company with 50 employees and several million-dollar contracts. She'd built it through long hours and smart strategy. The thought that Derek might have been stealing from her was almost worse than the affair. There's something else you should consider, Patricia continued. Hidden cameras. If he's bringing her to your home, you need evidence. Not for the divorce itself, but for what might come after. Trust me, you'll want documentation of everything. Natasha left Patricia's office with a plan and a sick feeling in her stomach. She went to an electronics store and bought 3 small security cameras, the kind that connected to a phone app. Then she went to her office instead of home. Palmer Solutions occupied the top floor of a downtown building with a view of the city. At 5 p.m., most of her staff had gone home. Rebecca looked up when Natasha walked in. Boss? Are you okay? I need you to pull all login records for the past year. Every account access, every file download, everything. And don't tell anyone you're doing it. Rebecca stood up immediately. What's going on? Derek's been having an affair with Simone. For 2 years. Rebecca's mouth dropped open. That snake. That absolute? She stopped herself. What do you need me to do? Check every access Derek has had to our systems. Every client file he's viewed, every database he's touched. And do it quietly. I don't want him to know I'm looking. I'm on it. Go home, install those cameras I assume you have in that bag and get some rest. I'll have a report by morning. Natasha hugged her assistant. Thank you. He's an idiot, Rebecca said. You're going to destroy him. At home, Derek's car was gone. Natasha worked quickly, installing cameras in the bedroom, the living room, and her home office. She hid them carefully, making sure they weren't visible. Then she sat down at her home computer and started checking accounts. The personal credit card showed charges she didn't recognize. A jewelry store, she'd never received any jewelry. A hotel in Miami, she'd been in New York that weekend for a conference. Restaurant charges on nights when Derek said he was working late. She opened a spreadsheet and started documenting everything. Date, location, amount, what Derek had told her he was doing. The pattern was damning. Then she checked her business accounts and felt her blood run cold. There were file transfers she hadn't authorized. Large document downloads late at night. Database exports that no one should have been making. Derek had been systematically copying their client information, their pitch strategies, their proprietary marketing algorithms that Natasha had spent years developing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Derek. "Where are you? We need to talk." She didn't respond. Instead, she called Patricia Reeves' emergency number. "Mrs. Palmer? He's been stealing from my company. My business. Everything I've built. Document everything. Don't touch anything, don't delete anything, just document." "And Mrs. Palmer? From this moment forward, trust nothing he says. People who steal don't stop at one thing." Natasha worked until midnight, building a spreadsheet of evidence. When she finally looked up, her eyes were burning, but she had something solid. Proof of theft, proof of fraud, proof that this went way beyond an affair. She heard Derek's car pull into the driveway around 1 a.m. She quickly closed her laptop and went upstairs to the guest bedroom, locking the door behind her. He knocked. "Tasha? Come on, open the door." "Go away, Derek. We need to talk about this. You can't just hide from me." "I'm not hiding. I'm protecting myself. From you." "From me? I'm your husband. You're a cheater and a thief. I found the charges, Derek. The hotels, the jewelry, the restaurants. I found all of it." There was silence on the other side of the door. "Then, it's not what you think." "Really? Then what is it?" "I can explain everything. Just open the door. Explain it through your lawyer. I've already hired mine." She heard him walk away, heard his footsteps heavy on the stairs. The front door slammed. His car started. He left. Natasha went to her laptop and checked the camera feeds. They were working perfectly, recording everything. She had motion detection set up to alert her phone. If Derek came back with Simone, she'd know. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Simone. "Tasha, please talk to me. I know you're hurt, but you have to understand, we didn't mean for this to happen. It just did. These things happen. You'll understand someday when you find real love." Natasha stared at the message in disbelief. Real love. Simone thought what she had with Derek was real love? After lying and sneaking around for 2 years? After destroying a marriage and a friendship? She blocked Simone's number. Then she blocked Derek's. She didn't need their explanations or their excuses. She needed evidence, and now she had the tools to get it. She lay awake in the guest bedroom, her mind spinning with everything she'd learned in the past 12 hours. Her marriage was over. Her best friendship was over. But her business was still hers, and she was going to make sure it stayed that way. Tomorrow she would change all the passwords, revoke all of Derek's access, and start building her case. Tonight, she would lie here and accept the truth. The life she thought she had was a lie. But lies could be exposed. Thieves could be caught. And betrayal could be answered with justice. The next morning, Natasha was in her office by 6 a.m. Rebecca was already there, surrounded by printouts and coffee cups. "You look terrible," Rebecca said. "I feel worse. What did you find?" Rebecca spread out the papers. "Derek has been accessing client files for the past 18 months. Not just reading them, downloading them. Look at this." She pointed to a highlighted section. 3 weeks ago, he downloaded our entire pitch strategy for the Brennan Corporation account. That's a $15 million contract we've been working on for 6 months. Natasha felt sick. Brennan Corporation is about to make their decision. We present final proposals in 2 weeks. There's more. He's been in contact with someone named Troy Bennett. I found email exchanges buried in the system logs. Bennett is starting a new marketing firm called Bennett Solutions. He's planning to compete with me, Natasha said slowly. He's going to use my own strategies against me. Looks like it. Natasha? I found financial transfers. Small amounts but consistent. 500 here, 1,000 there. All going to an account in Simone's name. He's been paying her? Or they're pooling money? I can't tell which. But it's been happening for over a year. Natasha sat down heavily. This wasn't just an affair. This was a planned attack on everything she'd built. Derek and Simone hadn't just fallen in love. They'd been systematically stealing from her, preparing to destroy her business and take her clients. Call our IT security, Natasha said. I want Derek's access revoked immediately. All of it. Every password changed, every login disabled. And I want a forensic audit of everything he's touched. Already started. IT will be here in an hour. You're the best, Rebecca. No, I just really hate cheaters. Rebecca handed her a coffee. Drink this. Then we're going to destroy him properly. By noon, Derek had been completely locked out of all systems. Natasha met with their IT security team and learned that Derek had also been accessing employee records, including salary information and social security numbers. That was identity theft, potentially criminal. She called Patricia Reeves. We need to talk about pressing charges, Natasha said. Come to my office. Bring everything you've found. That afternoon, Natasha sat in Patricia's office with 3 folders of evidence. Patricia reviewed each document carefully, making notes. This is serious, Mrs. Palmer. This goes way beyond divorce. This is corporate espionage, theft of trade secrets, possibly wire fraud. We need to involve the police and the FBI. The FBI? Your client list includes companies in multiple states. That makes it federal. And if he's been selling your information to competitors, that's additional crimes. Patricia looked up. But before we go to law enforcement, we need to know everything. Is there any chance he's done more than this? Natasha thought about the camera she'd installed. I'm gathering more evidence. Good. Document everything, but don't confront him. Let him think he's getting away with it. People get sloppy when they think they're safe. Natasha spent the next week pretending everything was normal. She moved back into the master bedroom. She spoke to Derek in short sentences. She watched him lie to her face about where he'd been, who he'd seen, what he'd done. And the cameras captured everything. 2 nights after their confrontation, Derek brought Simone to the house while Natasha was supposed to be at a business dinner. But Natasha had left early, parked down the street, and watched the footage from her phone at a coffee shop. They weren't just sleeping together. They were planning. The audio captured their conversation clearly. She has no idea, Simone said, lying in Natasha's bed. She still thinks you're just having an affair. The divorce papers will be filed right after her birthday, Derek responded. That's when her grandmother's inheritance activates. We waited 2 years for this. Another 2 weeks won't kill us. Natasha almost dropped her phone. Her grandmother's inheritance. Her grandmother had died 8 months ago, and the will had been complex, with trusts and stipulations. Natasha's lawyer had said something about her 35th birthday being significant, but she'd been too busy with work to pay attention to the details. Her birthday was in 12 days. She called her grandmother's estate attorney immediately. Miss Palmer, I'm glad you called. We need to schedule a meeting before your birthday to finalize the inheritance transfer. What exactly am I inheriting? Your grandmother's real estate portfolio. 23 properties across 5 states, with a current value of approximately $8.4 million. Plus liquid assets of another $2 million. The trust activates on your 35th birthday, and all assets transfer to your name. Natasha had known her grandmother was comfortable, but she'd never known the full extent of her wealth. Her grandmother had been a savvy real estate investor who'd bought properties decades ago when they were cheap. If I were to file for divorce after my birthday, would my husband have a claim to this inheritance? There was a pause. If you're married when the assets transfer, yes, he would have a claim to half under community property laws. Unless you file before the transfer happens. Thank you, Natasha said quietly. I'll see you tomorrow to review the details. That night, she watched more camera footage. Derek and Simone discussed their plans in detail. They'd been waiting for the inheritance to activate. They'd planned to file for divorce immediately after, claiming half of everything. They'd been using Natasha's business information to set up their competing firm, which would launch right as they destroyed her company's reputation by stealing her clients. It was elaborate. It was cold. And it had been in motion for 2 years. Natasha made careful notes of everything they said. Then she called Patricia Reeves again. We need to move faster. My birthday is in 12 days. That's when $10 million becomes marital property. Then we file for divorce in 11 days, Patricia said. And we do it in a way that destroys any chance he has of claiming a single penny. How? By proving fraud. If we can show he entered the marriage or stayed in the marriage with the intent to defraud you, the court will rule that he's not entitled to any assets. We use the camera footage, the business theft, everything. We build a case that shows this was a planned attack on your finances. Will it work? With what you've shown me? Absolutely. But Mrs. Palmer, you need to do something for me. What? Act normal. For the next 11 days, you need to pretend you suspect nothing. Can you do that? Natasha thought about watching Derek lie to her every day. Watching Simone text her asking about lunch plans while sleeping with her husband. Pretending she didn't know they were planning to destroy her life. Yes, she said. I can do that. And she did. For 11 days, Natasha Palmer played the role of oblivious wife. She smiled at Derek over breakfast. She responded to Simone's texts with generic excuses about being busy. She went to work, ran her company, and built her case. In secret, she met with forensic accountants who traced every stolen dollar. She met with IT security experts who documented every illegal access. She met with her grandmother's estate attorney and restructured the inheritance to protect it. And she planned a birthday party. Invite everyone, she told Rebecca. Family, friends, business associates. Make it big. Make it public. What are you planning? Rebecca asked. Justice, Natasha said. I'm planning justice. 3 days before her birthday, Natasha sat in the office of her grandmother's estate attorney, Michael Chin, reviewing documents that would change everything. He can try. But with the evidence you have, the affair, the business theft, the camera footage of him discussing his plan, no judge will give him anything. In fact, he'll be lucky if he's not facing criminal charges. I want him to face criminal charges. Patricia nodded. Then we need to coordinate with law enforcement. I have contacts at the FBI. Corporate espionage is their jurisdiction. How long will that take? We can file a report now, but they'll want to wait until we've gathered all evidence. Catching him in the act is better than relying on past actions. Is he still accessing your business files? No, we locked him out. But I have all the evidence from before. That'll work. The FBI will want to interview you after the divorce is filed. They'll build their case separately. Natasha felt a wave of satisfaction. Derek thought he was so smart, waiting for the perfect moment. But he'd miscalculated. He hadn't known about her grandmother's protections. He hadn't known Natasha would discover his plan. What about Simone? Natasha asked. She's involved in the business theft too. Her husband will want to know about the affair. Have you considered telling him? Natasha had thought about Andre, Simone's husband. He was a kind man, a high school teacher who coached basketball on the side. He'd been nothing but nice to Natasha over the years. He deserves to know, Natasha said. But I want to tell him privately before the party. He shouldn't find out in public. That's considerate of you. Do you want me to be there when you tell him? No, I'll do it alone. He and I aren't close, but he's a good person. He deserves better than this. The next day, Natasha called Andre and asked to meet him for coffee. He showed up looking cheerful, completely unaware of what was coming. Natasha. Simone said you've been really busy with work. It's good to see you. Natasha felt a twist of guilt. This man had no idea his wife had been lying to him for 2 years. Andre, I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. His smile faded. What's going on? Simone and Derek are having an affair. They have been for 2 years. The color drained from his face. What? No. That can't be true. I walked in on them. In my house, in my bed. And I have evidence, camera footage, messages, everything. I'm so sorry, Andre. He sat back in his chair, looking like he'd been punched. 2 years. Since right after your wedding. Our wedding. He laughed bitterly. I thought we were happy. I thought she loved me. I thought Derek loved me too. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Andre said, What are you going to do? I'm filing for divorce. Tomorrow at my birthday party. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows what they did. Can I be there? Andre asked. When you do it? Are you sure? I want to see her face. I want her to know that I know. Is that terrible? No, Natasha said. It's honest. They talked for another hour. Andre told her about times Simone had lied about where she was, about trips she'd taken without him, about how she'd been distant and distracted for months. All the signs he'd missed because he trusted her. We're fools, Andre said finally. No, Natasha corrected. We're people who loved and trusted. They're the fools for throwing that away. When they parted ways, Andre hugged her. Thank you for telling me. And I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry it happened to both of us. That night, Natasha finalized the party plans. She'd rented a room at an upscale downtown venue. She'd invited 50 people, family, friends, business associates, and clients. Derek thought it was a celebration. Simone had RSVP'd yes. They had no idea what was coming. At midnight on her 35th birthday, Natasha sat in her home office and watched the clock tick over. Her phone buzzed with a text from Michael Chin. Transfer complete. All properties are now in your name. Congratulations. She looked at the portfolio on her screen. 23 properties. $10 million in assets. All hers. Untouchable. Derek was asleep down the hall, dreaming about filing divorce papers next week and claiming half of everything. He had no idea he was already too late. Natasha allowed herself a small smile. Tomorrow would be interesting. The morning of the party, Natasha woke up to find Derek already awake, sitting on the edge of their bed with his phone. "Happy birthday," he said, not looking up. "Thanks. Big party tonight. You sure you want to do all this?" "It's my 35th birthday. That only happens once." He finally looked at her and she saw something calculating in his eyes. "Yeah, I guess it is a big one. Lots of changes ahead." "You have no idea," Natasha thought. "I'm heading to the office early," she said. "Need to wrap up some things before tonight. I'll see you at the party then." At her office, Rebecca had everything prepared. The divorce papers were in a manila envelope. The business theft documentation was ready. And Natasha had added one more element to the plan, a presentation. "You're really doing a presentation at your own birthday party?" Rebecca asked. "Just a short one. I want to thank everyone for their support. Show some highlights of the company's success. And maybe share some interesting discoveries we've made recently." Rebecca grinned. "You're diabolical." "I'm thorough." The forensic accountant arrived at 10 a.m. with his final report. He traced every dollar Derek had stolen, every file he'd accessed, every proprietary piece of information he'd taken. "Total damages to your company," the accountant said, "approximately $300,000 in stolen intellectual property and another $100,000 in fraudulent expenses." $400,000? Natasha repeated. "That's a conservative estimate. The real damage is in what he planned to do with that information. If he'd successfully competed with you using your own strategies, the losses could have been millions. Can you testify to this in court?" "Absolutely. And I've prepared a report that the FBI will want to see." By noon, Natasha had met with the FBI agents Patricia had connected her with. They reviewed all the evidence and agreed to open an investigation. "We'll need time to build the case," Agent Morrison said. "But what you've given us is substantial. Corporate espionage, wire fraud, identity theft from accessing employee records. He's looking at serious federal charges." "How long before you arrest him?" "We'll coordinate with local police. Probably within a week of your divorce filing. We want to make sure he doesn't destroy evidence." Natasha spent the afternoon getting ready for the party. She chose a sleek blue dress that her grandmother had bought her last year. She wore her grandmother's sapphire necklace. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. 2 weeks ago, she'd been someone who trusted easily and loved openly. Now she was someone who'd learned that trust had to be earned and love could be weaponized. But she was also someone who'd discovered she was stronger than she'd ever known. At 6 p.m., guests started arriving at the venue. Natasha greeted each one with a smile. Her father hugged her tightly. "Your grandmother would be so proud of the woman you've become," he said. "I hope so, Dad." Derek arrived at 6:30, looking uncomfortable in a suit. Simone showed up 10 minutes later, wearing a red dress that was too flashy for the occasion. She hugged Natasha like nothing was wrong. "Happy birthday, girl." 35. "You're officially old." Natasha smiled. "Age is just a number." Andre arrived alone at 7. Natasha caught his eye across the room and he nodded slightly. He'd agreed to stay quiet until she was ready. By 7:30 everyone was there. 50 people crowded into the elegant room, drinking champagne and eating appetizers. The mood was celebratory. Patricia Reeves stood in the corner, holding the envelope with the divorce papers. 2 court processors were positioned near the exits, waiting for her signal. At 8 p.m., Natasha stepped up to the small stage at the front of the room. Someone handed her a microphone. "Thank you all for coming," she began. 35 feels like a milestone. A time to reflect on the past and look forward to the future. People raised their glasses. "I want to thank my family for their support. My team at Palmer Solutions for their hard work. And my grandmother, who I miss every day, for teaching me to be strong." There was a murmur of agreement. Several people wiped their eyes. "My grandmother left me a gift that I just received today. A gift that's going to allow me to grow my business and start a new chapter of my life." Derek shifted uncomfortably near the back of the room. "But before I talk about the future, I need to address the past. Specifically, the past 2 years. Natasha's voice hardened. 2 years ago, my husband Derek and my best friend Simone began an affair. The room went silent. People looked at each other in shock. I discovered them together 2 weeks ago, but I've learned the affair is just the beginning. Derek has been stealing from my company. Client information, marketing strategies, proprietary algorithms, all stolen to start a competing business. That's not true. Derek shouted from the back. It is true. And I have evidence. Natasha nodded to Rebecca, who began playing footage on the large screen behind her. Security camera video of Derek downloading files. Audio recordings of him discussing the theft. Screenshots of financial transfers. People gasped. Several of Natasha's business associates looked furious. Derek and Simone have been planning this for 2 years. They waited until today, my 35th birthday, because they knew I was inheriting money. They planned to file for divorce immediately after, claiming half of everything. Simone's face had gone pale. She looked at Derek frantically. Unfortunately for them, Natasha continued, they didn't know that my grandmother protected the inheritance. They also didn't know that I discovered their plan 2 weeks ago. She nodded to Patricia, who stepped forward with the divorce papers. Derek Palmer, you're being served with divorce papers. On grounds of fraud, adultery, and theft. You'll be getting nothing from this marriage except criminal charges. The court processor handed Derek the papers. He stared at them in shock. Simone Bennett, you're being served as well. With documents for a civil lawsuit regarding corporate espionage and theft of trade secrets. The second processor handed papers to Simone. She started crying. Wait, Tasha, please. Derek started moving toward her. Don't, Natasha said coldly. I know everything. The affair. The theft. The plan to destroy my business. I have 2 years of evidence. The FBI is investigating. You're done. Andre stood up from where he'd been sitting. Simone, I want a divorce too. Simone turned to him, tears streaming. Andre, I can explain. Don't, he said, echoing Natasha's words. I don't want to hear it. The room buzzed with shocked whispers. Derek looked around desperately, like he was searching for an escape route. Simone collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Now, Natasha said, her voice light again, let's talk about the future. Palmer Solutions is expanding. We're merging with my inherited real estate holdings to create a new company focused on property development and marketing. We're also starting a foundation to help women who've experienced financial abuse in relationships. Her business associates started clapping. Then more people joined in. Soon the entire room was applauding except for Derek, Simone, and a few people who looked too shocked to move. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for your support. And thank you for witnessing the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Natasha stepped off the stage and walked directly to where her father stood. I'm proud of you, he said, hugging her. Thanks, Dad. Derek tried to approach her, but Rebecca stepped between them. The attorneys will contact you. Don't speak to Ms. Palmer directly. This is insane. Derek yelled. You can't do this. I already did, Natasha said calmly. Security guards moved in to escort Derek and Simone out. They went, Derek still protesting, Simone still crying. After they left, the party atmosphere slowly returned. People came up to Natasha one by one, expressing their support. Several business associates shook her hand and said they'd never work with Derek or his new company. Andre approached her around 9 p.m. That was brave. So was staying and watching. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. My lawyer's already been contacted. I'm sorry you're going through this. I'm sorry we both are. But at least we know the truth now. By 10 p.m. most people had left. Rebecca helped Natasha gather her things. That was the most dramatic birthday party I've ever seen, Rebecca said. It was necessary. What happens now? Now we wait. The FBI builds their case. The divorce goes through. And I start building something new. What about Derek and Simone? Natasha thought about them, probably fighting in his car somewhere, blaming each other for getting caught. They get exactly what they deserve, she said. Each other. The next morning, Natasha's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Word of the birthday party revelation had spread through her professional network like wildfire. Half the calls were from people expressing support. The other half were from reporters who'd somehow heard about the dramatic public divorce filing. No comment, Natasha told the fifth reporter. This is a private matter. Miss Palmer, is it true your husband stole company secrets to start a competing business? All relevant information has been provided to law enforcement. That's all I can say. She hung up and turned off her phone. She was sitting in her office at 8 a.m., running on 3 hours of sleep and too much coffee. Rebecca knocked and entered. The internet is going crazy. Someone posted video from last night. What? Rebecca turned her laptop around. Sure enough, someone had filmed the moment Natasha revealed the affair and played the evidence. The video had been posted on social media with the caption, "Woman exposes cheating husband and best friend at her own birthday party." "It has 2 million views," Rebecca said. "Oh no." "Oh yes." And the comments are brutal. People are tearing Derek and Simone apart. Natasha watched a few seconds of the video. She looked calm and controlled on screen, even as she was systematically dismantling Derek's life. The comments were indeed savage. "He deserves to be ruined. Imagine being so stupid you steal from your wife's company. The best friend? That's low even for cheaters. This woman is my hero. I didn't want it to go viral," Natasha said. "You filed for divorce at a party with 50 witnesses. What did you think would happen? I thought people would tell their friends, not post videos online." Her office phone rang. It was Patricia Reeves. "Have you seen the video?" Patricia asked. "Just now. This is actually good for us. Public opinion matters. Derek will have a hard time showing his face anywhere. But we need to be careful. He might try to claim you damaged his reputation intentionally." "I revealed facts. That's not defamation." "I know. Just be careful what you say publicly. Let the evidence speak for itself." After hanging up, Natasha tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting. What was Derek doing right now? Was he with Simone? Were they blaming each other? Or were they still trying to figure out a way to save themselves? She got her answer at noon when Derek showed up at her office building. Security called her. "Miss Palmer, your husband is in the lobby demanding to see you. Tell him I'm not available. He's making a scene. Should we call the police?" "Yes." Natasha watched on the security camera feed as Derek paced the lobby, yelling at the security guard. He looked terrible, unshaven, his clothes wrinkled, his eyes wild. "You have to let me see her. She's my wife." "Sir, you need to leave. She can't just throw me out of my own life." "Sir, I'm calling the police now." Derek finally left before the police arrived, but not before several employees had seen him. The whispers started immediately. Natasha could feel people staring as she walked to the break room. "Is it true?" one of the junior marketing associates asked. "About Mr. Palmer?" "It's true," Natasha said. "And if any of you are contacted by him or his new company, please report it to HR immediately. He may try to recruit people or steal more information." That afternoon, Natasha received a call from Troy Bennett, the man Derek had been planning to start his competing company with. "Miss Palmer, I need to speak with you about Derek Palmer." "I have nothing to say to you, Mr. Bennett. Please just hear me out. I had no idea he was stealing from you. He told me he developed those strategies himself. He showed me business plans and said they were his original work. Do you expect me to believe that? I'm canceling my business partnership with him. I've already filed paperwork to dissolve Bennett Solutions before it even launches. I don't want any part of this." Natasha paused. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I have a reputation to protect too. And because what he did was wrong. I've been in marketing for 20 years. I don't steal and I don't partner with people who do. Send me a written statement confirming everything Derek told you and everything you know about his plans. My lawyer will review it. I'll send it today." After the call, Natasha felt a small measure of satisfaction. Derek's business partner had abandoned him. His plans were falling apart. But the day wasn't over yet. At 4 p.m., Simone showed up at the office building. Unlike Derek, she didn't make a scene. She waited in the coffee shop across the street until Natasha left for the day. "Tasha, please, we need to talk," Simone said, stepping in front of her on the sidewalk. "No, we don't. You don't understand. Derek manipulated me. He told me you two were already separated. He said you were going to divorce him anyway." Natasha stared at her former friend. "Do you really think I'm that stupid? You knew we weren't separated. You were in my house. You wore my robe. You slept in my bed. I know, and I'm sorry. I made a mistake." "A mistake? You had an affair for 2 years. You helped him steal from my company. That's not a mistake, that's a pattern of choices. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. You hurt me more than Derek did because I trusted you. We were friends since we were 12 years old, Simone. Well, and you threw that away for what? A man? A man who was using both of us." Simone's face crumpled. "He said he loved me. He loved your willingness to help him steal. That's all. I lost everything. Andre's divorcing me. My family won't speak to me. People at my job found out, and I'm being investigated for professional misconduct because I used my position as a lawyer to help Derek with his business plans." Natasha felt no pity. "That's called consequences. Please, Tasha. Can't we fix this? Can't we try to? No. There's no fixing this. There's no going back. You made your choices and now you live with them. I don't have anywhere to go. Derek kicked me out. He's blaming me for everything. That's not my problem. We were best friends. We were best friends, Natasha corrected. Past tense. That person is gone. And you're the one who killed her. She walked away, leaving Simone standing on the sidewalk crying. She didn't look back. That evening, Natasha met with Patricia to discuss the divorce proceedings. Derek's lawyer contacted me, Patricia said. He wants to negotiate. Negotiate what? He has no leverage. He's claiming emotional distress from the public humiliation. He wants money to go away quietly. Natasha laughed. He wants me to pay him? After everything he did? It's a desperate move. His lawyer knows they have no case, but they're trying anything. Tell them no. Tell them they'll get nothing, and if they keep pushing, I'll make sure the FBI investigation gets even more resources. I'll relay the message. What about the criminal investigation? Agent Morrison called me today. They're moving forward with charges. Wire fraud, corporate espionage, and identity theft. They'll arrest him within the week. Good. Patricia looked at her carefully. How are you doing, Natasha? Really? Natasha considered the question. I thought I'd feel worse. I thought I'd be crying or angry or devastated. But mostly I just feel free. Like I've been carrying around a weight I didn't know was there, and now it's gone. That's healthy. Is it? Because I also feel cold. Like something in me shut down. You've been through trauma. It's natural to protect yourself by creating emotional distance. The feelings will come later when you're safe. When will that be? When he's in handcuffs and you've rebuilt your life. Then you'll feel safe enough to process what happened. That night, Natasha sat in her house now since Derek had moved out, and went through old photos. Pictures of her and Simone as teenagers. Pictures from her wedding to Derek. Pictures of happy moments that she now knew were built on lies. She didn't cry. She just looked at them objectively like they were photos of strangers. Then she put them all in a box, sealed it, and put it in the back of her closet. Maybe someday she'd look at them again. Maybe someday she'd be able to remember the good without being haunted by the betrayal. But not today. Today she had a company to run, a fortune to manage, and a future to build. Tomorrow Derek would learn about the criminal charges. Tomorrow Simone would continue facing the consequences of her choices. Tomorrow the world would keep spinning. And Natasha would keep moving forward. The FBI arrested Derek on a Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Natasha didn't witness it. She heard about it from Agent Morrison's phone call. We executed the arrest warrant at his temporary residence, Morrison said. He's being charged with wire fraud, corporate espionage, and identity theft. Bail has been set at $200,000. Will he be able to post it? Unlikely. His assets are frozen pending the civil lawsuit you filed, and his bank accounts show he's essentially broke. He spent everything on trying to impress your former friend. After the call, Natasha sat at her desk and felt nothing. She'd imagined this moment would bring satisfaction, but instead she just felt tired. Rebecca knocked and entered. It's on the news. Derek's arrest. They're showing his mugshot. I don't need to see it. The news is also reporting that Simone's been fired from her law firm. Apparently helping Derek with his business plans was a conflict of interest, and she didn't disclose it. She's facing a bar investigation. How do you know all this? I may have some friends who work at her firm, Rebecca said with a slight smile. The news spread quickly through their professional network. By noon, Natasha had received dozens of messages from colleagues and clients expressing support. Several major clients who'd been considering competing bids specifically stated they would never work with anyone associated with Derek. Troy Bennett sent her another message. I saw the news about Derek's arrest. I've given a full statement to the FBI. If there's anything else I can do to help your case, please let me know. Even some people Natasha barely knew reached out. The viral video had made her story national news. A morning talk show wanted to interview her about business theft and relationships. A publisher wanted her to write a book about corporate espionage. She declined everything. This wasn't entertainment. This was her life. That afternoon Andre called her. I heard about Derek's arrest, he said. Are you okay? I'm fine. How are you? My divorce from Simone is moving forward. She's not contesting anything. I think she knows she has no leverage. Has she contacted you? Every day. Calling, texting, showing up at my workplace. She wants to talk, wants to explain, wants me to forgive her. What do you tell her? Nothing. I blocked her number. I told my school security not to let her on campus. I'm done. Good for you. I heard she's living in her car. Her parents kicked her out, her sister won't talk to her, and she can't afford an apartment because she lost her job. Natasha felt a twinge of something, not pity exactly but awareness of how far Simone had fallen. That's her choice to figure out, Natasha said. Yeah. I just wanted you to know. In case she tries to contact you again. After hanging up, Natasha tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting to Simone living in her car. 2 months ago, Simone had a husband, a high-paying job as a corporate attorney, and a nice apartment. Now she had nothing. But Natasha reminded herself that Simone had made every choice that led to this moment. She'd chosen to have the affair. She'd chosen to help Derek steal. She'd chosen to plan Natasha's financial destruction. Consequences weren't punishment. They were just the natural result of actions. A week later, Derek's criminal trial began moving through the court system. His public defender tried to argue that Natasha had entrapped him by not securing her business properly, but the judge shut that down immediately. Mr. Palmer had authorized access that he abused, the judge said. That's not entrapment, that's theft. The civil lawsuit was progressing even faster. Patricia had filed for an expedited hearing, and the evidence was so overwhelming that Derek's lawyer was trying to negotiate a settlement. He's offering to give up all claims to marital property in exchange for dropping the civil suit, Patricia told Natasha. No. I want judgment. I want it on record that he stole from me. That's what I told them. We go to trial in 3 weeks. During those 3 weeks, Natasha threw herself into building her new company. She'd officially merged Palmer Solutions with her inherited real estate portfolio, creating Palmer Development and Marketing. The company would focus on developing properties and creating marketing campaigns for real estate projects. She hired a property management team to handle her rental properties. She hired architects and contractors to develop the empty lots. She promoted Rebecca to Chief Operating Officer. You're sure about this? Rebecca asked. COO is a big job. You've been running half the company already. It's time to make it official. What about you? What's your title now? CEO and founder. Just like always. The business transformation energized her. Every day brought new projects, new opportunities, new reasons to wake up excited. She was building something bigger and better than what she'd had before. And she was doing it without Derek, without Simone, without anyone who'd tried to hold her back. 3 weeks after Derek's arrest, the civil trial took place. Natasha sat in the courtroom as her lawyers presented evidence. Security footage, financial records, testimony from Troy Bennett about Derek's plans, testimony from the forensic accountant about the stolen intellectual property. Derek's lawyer tried to argue that the information Derek had taken was freely available and not proprietary. The judge reviewed the algorithms, the marketing strategies, and the client data. This is clearly proprietary information, the judge ruled. Mr. Palmer stole trade secrets with the intent to compete with his wife's business. I'm finding in favor of the plaintiff. The judgment was $400,000 in damages, plus legal fees. The judge also issued an injunction preventing Derek from using any information he'd taken from Palmer Solutions. Derek's face was gray as the judgment was read. He'd lost everything, his marriage, his business plans, his freedom, and now he owed money he didn't have. Natasha felt nothing watching him. No satisfaction, no anger, nothing. He was just a man who'd made terrible choices and now had to face them. After the trial, Patricia pulled her aside. He'll probably file for bankruptcy. You won't see that $400,000. I don't care about the money. I care about the judgment. I care that it's on record what he did. You got that? Congratulations. That evening, Natasha went to her grandmother's grave. She hadn't been there since the funeral 8 months ago. Hi, Grandma, she said, standing in front of the headstone. I read your letter. Thank you for trying to protect me. The cemetery was quiet, just birdsong and wind in the trees. I'm okay now. Better than okay. I'm building something amazing with what you left me. And I'm starting a foundation to help other women who go through what I did. She placed flowers on the grave. Derek got arrested. Simone lost everything. They both destroyed their own lives trying to destroy mine. You'd probably say that's karma, right? Natasha smiled slightly. I miss you. I wish you were here to see what I'm doing. But I think you knew I'd be okay. That's why you protected the inheritance. You knew I was strong enough to handle this. She stood there for a few more minutes, then walked back to her car. As she drove away, she felt something shift inside her. not closure exactly but acceptance. This chapter of her life was over. Derek would go to jail. Simone would face her bar investigation. Andre would move on. And Natasha would keep building. 2 months after the trial, Natasha received an email from an organization that helped women escaping domestic abuse. They'd heard about her plans for a foundation and wanted to partner with her. "We run shelters across 3 states, the director explained over a video call. "But we need help with financial literacy programs. Too many women stay in abusive situations because they don't know how to build financial independence." "That's exactly what I want to address," Natasha said. "My ex-husband stole from me, but I had resources to fight back. Most women don't. Would you be interested in funding a program that teaches women about business ownership, credit repair, and financial planning?" "I'd be interested in funding that and more. What if we created a whole system? Shelters, education programs, business grants for women starting over?" The director's eyes lit up. "That would change lives." "Then let's do it. Send me a proposal." After the call, Natasha looked out her office window at the city below. Somewhere out there, Derek was sitting in jail awaiting his criminal trial. Somewhere out there, Simone was trying to rebuild a life from nothing. But Natasha wasn't thinking about them anymore. She was thinking about the future. About women who needed help. About buildings that needed developing. About a company that was growing faster than she'd ever imagined. She'd started this year as someone's wife, someone's friend, someone who trusted too easily. She was ending it as a CEO, a philanthropist, and someone who knew her own worth. That felt like justice enough. 6 months after the divorce, Natasha stood in front of the first building she'd personally developed. A mixed-use property with affordable housing units on the upper floors and commercial space at street level. The grand opening had drawn a crowd of city officials, business partners, and community members. "Palmer Development and Marketing is committed to sustainable growth that benefits communities," Natasha said into the microphone. "This building represents our vision: quality housing, economic opportunity, and environmental responsibility." The crowd applauded. Rebecca stood off to the side, beaming with pride. After the ceremony, Natasha toured the building with potential commercial tenants. A coffee shop owner, a bookstore operator, and a woman who wanted to open a tutoring center for kids from low-income families. "The rent is lower than market rate?" the bookstore operator asked. "For the first year," Natasha explained. "We want to support small businesses that serve the community. After year 1, rent increases gradually to market rate, but by then you'll hopefully be established." "That's incredibly generous." "It's good business. Strong local businesses create stable neighborhoods, which increases property values. Everyone benefits." The tutoring center owner pulled Natasha aside. "I heard about your foundation. The one that helps women. Is that still happening?" "It's more than happening. We're opening our first center next month." "Why?" "I was in an abusive marriage for 8 years. I finally left, but I had nothing. No job skills, no savings, nowhere to go. Organizations like what you're building could have changed my life years earlier." Natasha felt something crack in her chest, the first real emotion she'd felt in months. "Tell me your story. Maybe you could help us develop our programs." They talked for an hour. The woman, Isabel, had survived financial abuse that made Derek's theft look minor. Her ex-husband had controlled every penny, had sabotaged her job applications, had destroyed her credit. It had taken her 3 years to rebuild. "What finally helped you?" Natasha asked. "A program that taught me bookkeeping. I got a job at a small accounting firm, worked my way up, and saved every penny. Now I run my own tutoring business. But so many women don't make it out. Would you be willing to speak to other women going through similar situations?" "I'd love to." That conversation planted a seed. Natasha realized her foundation needed real voices, not just programs and money. It needed women who'd survived to show others what was possible. She hired Isabel as the foundation's first community liaison. Together, they designed workshops on financial literacy, business planning, and credit repair. They partnered with local law schools to provide free legal clinics. They worked with therapists who specialized in trauma recovery. The Palmer Foundation for Women's Economic Empowerment officially opened 3 months later in a renovated building Natasha owned. The first floor held classroom space, counseling rooms, and a computer lab. The second floor had apartments for women transitioning out of dangerous situations. At the opening ceremony, Natasha spoke about her own experience, carefully without naming Derek or Simone, but honestly about betrayal and financial abuse. "I was lucky," she said. "I had resources to fight back. But most women don't. They're trapped in relationships because they can't afford to leave. They stay because they don't know how to rebuild. This foundation exists to change that. The local news covered the opening. Within a week, 200 women had contacted them asking for help. Rebecca, now running the day-to-day operations of the development company, pulled Natasha into her office one afternoon. "We need to talk about your schedule," Rebecca said. "You're working 80-hour weeks between the company and the foundation." "I'm fine." "You're going to burn out. Delegate more. Hire people. Take a day off occasionally. I'll rest when things are stable." Things are never stable in startup mode. You're building 2 organizations at once. That's insane. Rebecca was right, but Natasha couldn't slow down. Staying busy meant she didn't have to think about Derek's trial, which was finally scheduled to start in 2 weeks. It meant she didn't have to think about Simone, who'd apparently moved to another state to escape her reputation. It meant she didn't have to think about the fact that her marriage had been a lie for 2 years. Work was safer than feelings. But then Jerome walked into her life. He was an architect bidding on a project to develop one of her empty lots into a community center. His portfolio was impressive: sustainable design, beautiful use of space, buildings that felt alive. "I design buildings that serve people," he said during their first meeting. "Architecture isn't just about aesthetics. It's about creating spaces where humans thrive." "That's exactly what I want," Natasha said. "This lot is in a neighborhood that needs gathering space. I want something that brings people together." Jerome's eyes lit up. "I have ideas. Can I show you some sketches?" They spent 2 hours going through his designs. He showed her community centers he'd built in other cities, spaces with gardens, performance areas, rooms for classes and meetings. "This one," Natasha said, pointing to a design that featured lots of natural light and flexible spaces. "This is perfect. You have good taste. I have a good architect." They smiled at each other, and Natasha felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: a genuine connection with another person. Over the next few weeks, Jerome came to her office regularly to discuss the project. They'd start talking about architecture and end up discussing everything else: books, travel, their families, their dreams. "You're different from how I expected," Jerome said one afternoon. "What did you expect?" "I saw the viral video. I thought you'd be hard, maybe bitter. But you're not. You're hopeful." "You think building a foundation and helping women is hopeful?" "I think building anything is hopeful. It means you believe the future can be better than the past." Natasha considered that. "Maybe you're right. I do believe things can get better. Even after what you went through? Especially after what I went through. I learned I'm stronger than I thought. I learned I don't need someone else to be complete. And I learned that trust has to be earned." "Does that mean you'll never trust anyone again?" "It means I'll be more careful. But no, I still believe in trust. I just believe in verification too." Jerome laughed. Reagan's old line. It applies to more than international relations. They were interrupted by Rebecca, who stuck her head in the door. "Sorry to interrupt, but Derek's trial starts tomorrow. Patricia wants to know if you're planning to attend." The mention of Derek's name shifted the mood in the room. Jerome looked uncomfortable. "I should go," he said, standing. "Let me know what you think about the latest revisions." After he left, Rebecca raised her eyebrows. "He's cute. He's professional. He looks at you like you're more than professional." "Rebecca, I'm just saying. It's okay to move on, you know. Derek's not worth staying bitter over." "I'm not bitter. I'm busy." "You're allowed to be both busy and happy. They're not mutually exclusive." That evening, Natasha thought about Jerome. He was kind, talented, and seemed genuinely interested in her beyond her money or her story. But was she ready for that? Was she ready to let someone in again? She'd spent 6 months building walls around herself, protecting her heart by staying focused on work. Those walls had served their purpose. They'd kept her safe while she healed. But maybe Rebecca was right. Maybe it was time to consider letting someone in again. Not Derek. Not someone who would use her. But maybe someone like Jerome, who saw her as a partner rather than a target. The next day, Natasha attended Derek's criminal trial. She sat in the back of the courtroom and watched as prosecutors laid out the evidence of his theft. Bank records, computer forensics, testimony from the FBI's cybercrime unit. Derek looked terrible. Jail time while awaiting trial had aged him. He'd lost weight, his skin was gray, and he couldn't seem to sit still. His lawyer tried to argue that Derek had believed the information was his to use, that there had been a misunderstanding about what constituted company property versus personal work product. The prosecutor destroyed that argument with evidence showing Derek had deliberately hidden his activities, had lied about his access, and had planned to use the stolen information to compete directly with Natasha's company. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Derek's face crumpled when the verdict was read. His lawyer put a hand on his shoulder, but Derek shook it off. Sentencing would be in 2 weeks. He was facing up to 5 years in federal prison. Natasha left the courtroom before Derek saw her. She didn't need to confront him or have a final conversation. His conviction was closure enough. Outside, she found Jerome waiting on the courthouse steps. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Rebecca told me you were testifying today. I thought you might want some company after." "I didn't testify. I just watched the verdict." "Guilty?" "Guilty. How do you feel?" Natasha thought about the question. "Empty. I thought I'd feel satisfied or vindicated, but mostly I just feel tired." "That's normal. Closure doesn't always feel good. It just feels like an ending." "When did you become wise about this stuff?" "My ex-wife cheated on me," Jerome said quietly. "Different circumstances but similar feelings. I know what it's like to watch someone you trusted get what they deserve and still feel hollow about it." "I'm sorry. It was 5 years ago. I'm over it now. But it taught me to be careful, like you said. To look for red flags. To trust slowly." They stood on the courthouse steps as people streamed past them. "Can I buy you dinner?" Jerome asked. "Not a date. Just two people who've been through stuff, having a meal and maybe talking about things that aren't work-related." Natasha hesitated. Then she thought about Rebecca's words. "You're allowed to be both busy and happy." "Yes," she said. "I'd like that." They went to a quiet restaurant and talked for 3 hours. About architecture and business, yes, but also about healing, about learning to trust again, about what it meant to build a new life after someone tried to destroy your old one. "I don't know if I'm ready to date," Natasha admitted. "I don't know if I'll ever be ready." "That's okay. I'm not asking you to be ready. I'm just asking if you want to have dinner sometimes and see where things go." "No expectations?" "No expectations. Just two people getting to know each other." Natasha smiled, a real smile, not the professional one she'd been wearing for months. "I think I can handle that." As she drove home that night, she felt something shift inside her. Not healing exactly, that would take longer. But maybe the beginning of healing. Maybe the first small crack in the walls she'd built around herself. Derek would go to prison. Simone would face her bar investigation. Their choices had destroyed them. But Natasha was still standing. Still building. Still moving forward. And maybe, just maybe, opening herself up to the possibility of something good. 2 years after the birthday party that changed everything, Natasha stood in the lobby of her newest property, a 15-story mixed-use building that had just won an architecture award. Jerome's design had created something beautiful: affordable housing, commercial space, and a community center all in one building. "They're calling it the future of urban development," Rebecca said, showing Natasha the article on her tablet. "You're on the cover of 3 business magazines this month." Jerome deserves most of the credit. His design made this work. You funded it. You took the risk. Don't minimize what you've done. Palmer Development and Marketing had grown beyond Natasha's wildest expectations. She now owned or managed 50 properties across 6 states. The company employed 200 people. Her real estate portfolio was worth over $30 million. The Palmer Foundation had helped over 1,000 women escape financial abuse, with a 90% success rate in helping them achieve economic independence. They'd opened centers in 4 cities and were planning 3 more. And Jerome was sitting in her office right now, waiting for her to finish her meeting so they could go to lunch. They'd been together for 18 months, taking it slow, building trust. He'd met her father. She'd met his daughter from his previous marriage. They were talking about moving in together, though Natasha still had moments of panic about letting someone that close again. "You're thinking too hard," Rebecca said. "Go have lunch with your boyfriend. I'll handle the afternoon meetings." Natasha walked to her office and found Jerome sketching on his tablet. He looked up and smiled. "Ready?" he asked. "Let me grab my coat." Her phone buzzed as they were leaving. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello? Natasha?" It's Simone." Natasha stopped walking. Jerome looked at her with concern. "How did you get this number?" Natasha asked coldly. "I've been calling your office for weeks. Your assistant finally gave me your cell. Please don't hang up. I need to talk to you. We have nothing to discuss. Please. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Natasha was about to refuse, but then curiosity got the better of her. What could Simone possibly want after 2 years? 5 minutes. Talk. Not on the phone. Can we meet? I'm in town. I can come to wherever you are. No. If you want to talk, it's on my terms. Tomorrow at noon, the coffee shop on 5th and Main. If you're even 1 minute late, I'm leaving. I'll be there. Thank you, Tasha. Don't call me that. You don't get to use my nickname anymore. Natasha hung up and realized her hands were shaking. What was that? Jerome asked gently. Simone. My former best friend. She wants to meet. The one who? Yeah. Her. Do you want to go? Natasha thought about it. 2 years ago, she told Simone they had nothing to say to each other. But maybe that was still true. Maybe hearing Simone out would be final closure. I think I do, Natasha said. I think I need to see where she ended up. The next day, Natasha arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. She chose a table near the back where they could talk privately. Simone walked in at 11:58. Natasha barely recognized her. The woman who'd always been perfectly put together, designer clothes, perfect hair, careful makeup, looked worn down. She wore jeans and a faded sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She'd lost weight but not in a healthy way. She looked tired. Thank you for meeting me, Simone said, sitting down across from Natasha. You have 5 minutes. I wanted to apologize. I know it doesn't mean anything now, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. I was wrong. What I did was unforgivable. You're right. It doesn't mean anything. Is that all? No. I wanted you to know what happened. After everything fell apart. Natasha didn't respond, but she didn't leave either. Derek and I stayed together for about 3 months after your birthday party, Simone continued. We told each other it would be okay, that we'd get through it together. But then he got arrested and I lost my job and everything just collapsed. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just telling you what happened. Derek blamed me for getting caught. He said if I'd been smarter about covering our tracks, you never would have found out. We fought constantly. Then one day I found out he was cheating on me too. Natasha felt a flicker of something. Not satisfaction exactly, but acknowledgement of karma's work. He'd been seeing someone else the whole time, Simone said. Even while he was with me. Even while we were planning to take your money and start over. I was just another mark to him. How does that feel? Natasha asked. Being betrayed by someone you trusted? Terrible. Feels terrible. And I know I deserve it. I know this is karma. But Natasha, I need you to know that I loved you. You were my best friend and I destroyed that. I destroyed everything. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm in AA now. Step 9 is making amends to people you've harmed. I know I can't fix what I did, but I need to acknowledge it. I need to tell you that I was wrong and I'm sorry and I don't expect forgiveness. Natasha looked at the woman across from her and tried to feel something. Anger, pity, anything. But she just felt distant, like Simone was a stranger telling her someone else's story. I lost everything, Simone continued. My license to practice law is suspended for 5 years. My family won't speak to me. Andre remarried, did you know that? He's happy. And I'm living in a studio apartment in Nebraska working at a call center because it's the only job I could get with my background. Nebraska? As far from here as I could get. I couldn't face people anymore. Everywhere I went, someone recognized me from the video or the news stories. So I left. What do you want from me, Simone? Nothing. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. And I wanted to tell you that I saw the articles about your foundation. About what you're doing to help women. That's amazing, Natasha. You took something horrible and made it meaningful. I didn't do it because of you. I did it despite you. I know. But still. It's good work. And I'm glad you're doing well. You deserve it. They sat in silence for a moment. Derek got sentenced to 4 years, Simone said. He'll be out in 3 with good behavior. When he gets out, I hope I never see him again. You and me both. Are you with someone now? I heard you were seeing someone. That's not your business. Right. Sorry. I'm glad you found happiness. If you did. Natasha stood up. Your 5 minutes are up. Wait. Can I ask you one thing? What? Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? Maybe not now, but someday? Natasha considered the question honestly. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll get to a place where I don't care anymore. Where you're just someone I used to know. But forgiveness? I don't know if I'll ever get there. That's fair. Goodbye, Simone. Goodbye, Natasha. Natasha walked out of the coffee shop and stood on the sidewalk for a moment. She felt strange, not good, not bad, just strange. Like she'd closed a door she'd forgotten was still open. Jerome was waiting in the car. He looked at her face and asked, "How was it?" "Weird." She apologized. She told me about how her life fell apart. She wanted forgiveness. "Did you give it to her?" "No." "I told her the truth, that I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her." "That's honest." She looked so different. So broken. 2 years ago I might have felt bad for her. But now I just feel nothing. That's probably healthy. She made her choices. Derek cheated on her too. The whole time they were together. Jerome shook his head. Karma. Yeah. Karma came for both of them. They drove in silence for a bit. Then Natasha said, "I don't want to think about them anymore. They're the past. I want to focus on the future." "What future are you thinking about?" "Well, there's the new development project in Portland. The foundation expansion. And there's this architect I know who designed an amazing community center. I'm thinking maybe we should work on more projects together." Jerome smiled. "Professional projects? And personal ones?" "I've been thinking, maybe it's time to stop being so careful. Maybe it's time to take a risk on something good." "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying let's move in together. Let's combine our lives and see where it goes." Jerome pulled the car over and turned to look at her. "Are you sure? I don't want you to feel pressured." "I'm sure. I spent 2 years rebuilding my life. Now I want to start building a new one. With you." He kissed her, gentle and sweet. "I love you, you know that?" "I know. I love you too." As they drove away, Natasha looked back at the coffee shop one last time. Simone was still sitting at the table, staring into her cup. Natasha felt a moment of pity. Then she turned forward and didn't look back again. Simone had made her choices. Derek had made his. They would both live with the consequences. But Natasha was done letting their choices affect her life. She'd survived their betrayal. She'd built something amazing from the ashes of her marriage. And now she was ready to build something even better. The past was the past. The future was waiting. And this time, Natasha was walking toward it with someone who truly deserved her trust. 1 year later, Natasha stood at the dedication ceremony for the Palmer Foundation's newest facility, a comprehensive center in Portland that included housing, job training, childcare, and legal services all under one roof. "This represents the culmination of everything we've been working toward," Natasha said to the crowd of supporters, city officials, and women who'd been helped by the foundation. 3 years ago, I experienced betrayal that could have destroyed me. Instead, it taught me about resilience, about strength, about the power of rebuilding." Jerome stood in the front row, beaming with pride. Next to him was Rebecca, now the CEO of Palmer Development and Marketing after Natasha had promoted her to focus more on the foundation. Next to Rebecca was Isabel, who'd become the foundation's executive director. "We've helped over 2,000 women achieve economic independence," Natasha continued. "We've provided housing for 500 families. We've funded 73 small businesses. And we're just getting started." The crowd applauded. Natasha looked out at them and felt something she hadn't felt in years: complete peace. After the ceremony, Natasha mingled with donors and supporters. A young woman approached her nervously. "Miss Palmer? I wanted to thank you. I came to the foundation 6 months ago with nothing. My ex-husband had drained our accounts and destroyed my credit. I didn't know how I was going to feed my kids. What happened? Your foundation helped me get a job in bookkeeping. They helped me repair my credit. They gave me a place to live while I got back on my feet. Now I have my own apartment and a stable income. I'm taking online classes to get my accounting degree. That's wonderful. That's exactly why we exist. I just wanted you to know that you saved my life. Not just financially, you gave me hope. You showed me that I could start over." After the woman walked away, Jerome came up and put his arm around Natasha. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm better than okay. I'm happy." "You are." For the first time in years, genuinely happy. "Look at this." She gestured to the building, the people, the community they'd created. "This is real. This matters. You matter." "I know. Took a while, but I finally know my worth. And it has nothing to do with Derek or Simone or anyone else. It's just mine." That evening they went home, not to Natasha's old house, which she'd sold a year ago, but to the modern loft they'd bought together downtown. Jerome had designed it himself, creating a space that was both stylish and comfortable. As they cooked dinner together, Natasha's phone rang. She glanced at it and saw Patricia Reeves' name. "Do you need to get that?" Jerome asked. It can wait. But she was curious, so she answered. Hi, Patricia. Natasha, I wanted to give you an update. Derek was released from prison today. Natasha felt a small flutter in her stomach. Already? He served 3 years with good behavior. He's on parole for the next 2 years and will be under court-ordered supervision. Where is he? He's required to stay in state, but beyond that, I don't know. I wanted to give you a heads up in case he tries to contact you. He won't. He knows better. Just be aware. People who've been in prison sometimes make poor decisions when they first get out. If he contacts you, let me know immediately. After hanging up, Natasha told Jerome about Derek's release. How do you feel about that? Jerome asked. Indifferent. He's someone I used to know who did terrible things. He served his time. Now he has to rebuild his life just like I did. You don't worry about him showing up? No. What could he possibly say to me? What could he possibly do? He has nothing. I have everything. The best revenge is living well, and I'm living very well. That's a healthy perspective. It's taken 3 years to get here. But I'm finally at a place where I don't care what happens to him. He's not my problem anymore. They finished cooking and sat down to eat. As they talked about the Foundation's next project and Jerome's latest architectural commission, Natasha felt content in a way she'd never experienced in her marriage to Derek. This was what partnership was supposed to feel like. Equal. Supportive. Built on honesty. A week later, Natasha was in her Foundation office when Rebecca called. Turn on the news, Rebecca said urgently. Happy. Nervous. Excited. Any doubts? None. Jerome is nothing like Derek. This is nothing like my first marriage. I'm not the same person I was then. No, you're stronger now. You know your worth. I do. And I know that if anything ever went wrong, I'd survive. I've already survived the worst. Everything else is just life. The ceremony was perfect. Small, intimate, meaningful. Natasha's father walked her down the aisle. Jerome's daughter was the flower girl. Rebecca was the maid of honor. When the officiant asked if they took each other as partners in life, both said yes without hesitation. At the reception, Natasha's father gave a toast. 3 years ago my daughter went through hell, he said. But she didn't just survive, she thrived. She built an empire. She started a foundation that's changing lives. And she found someone who truly deserves her. Natasha, your grandmother and I are so proud of the woman you've become. Later, as Natasha and Jerome danced, she thought about how far she'd traveled from that afternoon when she'd walked in on Derek and Simone. That version of herself, the one who'd trusted blindly, was gone. In her place was someone stronger. Someone who'd learned that she could survive anything. Someone who'd turned betrayal into purpose. Derek was somewhere out there, probably still making terrible choices. Simone was in Nebraska, living with her consequences. They would both carry the weight of what they'd done for the rest of their lives. But Natasha was free. Free from anger, free from bitterness, free from the past. She'd built something beautiful from the ruins of her old life. She'd found love again, but this time on her own terms. She was helping women who'd been through what she had, showing them that survival was possible. What are you smiling about? Jerome asked as they danced. Everything. The life we're building. The work we're doing. The fact that I'm happy. You deserve to be happy. I know. And that's the real victory, not that Derek went to jail or that Simone lost everything. The victory is that I'm here, happy, with someone who respects me. The victory is that I didn't let them break me. You're unbreakable. I'm human. I can break. But I can also rebuild. That's the important part. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Natasha stood with Jerome looking out at the city lights. What's next? He asked. We finished the Portland facility. We open 2 more centers next year. We keep helping women find their strength. I meant for us. For us. We build a life. A real one based on honesty and respect. We support each other's dreams. We create something that lasts. That sounds perfect. And it was. After 3 years of rebuilding, of healing, of learning who she really was, Natasha had finally arrived at the place she was meant to be. Not defined by betrayal. Not defined by revenge. Defined by resilience, strength, and the ability to build something beautiful from the ashes of what came before. The past was behind her. The future stretched out ahead, full of possibility. And Natasha was ready for all of it.